thank you, Divya, and welcome to the Learning in Action series by upGrad and People Matters. Thank you for taking out the time, and we'd love to sort of talk a little bit about everything that's happening and your experience around the world of learning and development. And to start that off, we're seeing that newer technologies like AI have become so much mainstream. How have you seen business priorities shift from a skilling perspective for you guys?
I think business priorities have significantly changed because of the challenges that today's environment poses. Now, if I have to specifically talk about an industry like mine, which is InsuranceDekho, in insurance, we have a geographically distributed population. Now, that's not just the employee population, but also the partner population. And as a product, insurance is so complicated that there's a need to simplify it and to give a very personalized learning capsule to every person. So what we have done is that we have our own portal. There's a technology called ID Edge where we put in all our learning modules and we make people learn the basics of insurance. So imagine a housewife in Bhilai learns about insurance and she is able to navigate through the complexity that the product itself poses, and then she is able to advise her customers so that that insurance policy can be bought. So the business need today is anytime, anywhere, and a very simplified or maybe a customized content which is palatable by different people regardless of the experience that they come from, the seniority that they come from, or the part of India that they come from. And I think that is where, as you said, AI has kind of taken the center stage, and it has shook the L&D community and the HR community in general. And that's where it is as far as this industry is concerned and the challenges.
So two parts to this, right? Very interesting that you brought it up. So how is AI helping you in this, and how are you teaching AI to this housewife who's sitting in Bhilai? How do you see both of them playing out for you?
So second question first, we are not teaching AI, but what we are saying is that, hey, if you specifically need to know about a feature in a health insurance product which is offered by tens of companies with hundreds of complex plan, you don't need to go through the entire module to figure out an answer to your question. You could possibly type in your query to the chatbot. The chatbot looks at the myriad of information and decks and videos that are available in the backend and pops out the answer which is relevant to you. I think that's what we are doing it. And removing the need of sitting in front of a laptop or traveling to a training center or to listen to day-long speeches is the way that you cut that time and you make it more convenient. You make learning more convenient is what I would say. And that can happen only if there is a win-win. When do I learn? I learn when I feel that there is a point in learning or there is a way in which I'm gaining. So companies, I think they need to arrive at this win-win dhruv because having worked for around 2 decades in the industry, more often than not, we as HR professionals, we commit the mistake of a copy-paste that a case scenario or a solution in learning or a learning strategy worked well previously, and we assume that it will work well here also. But as we spoke about in the beginning of the session, it's all about customized learning and how you make it relevant for that individual who is doing that program and how easy it is.
Absolutely, I cannot agree more. But if you look at insurance in the sector that you're at, you have such a large distributed workforce. One of the challenges that I'm sure creeps up is how do you actually measure impact? Because this is a distributed workforce, they're learning at their own pace. How are you solving that?
So as I said, that learning for us is for 2 different cohorts. One is the partner cohort, which is much larger and distributed and very, very diverse, very, very diverse. And then there is an employee cohort, which is also geographically distributed. But then since there are selection mechanisms, interviews and everything happening, we ensure that there is a minimum level which is coming into the company. So for the former, the biggest thing is in the premium that they do. We have seen that once partners focus on the learning programs that we push out and they spend the minimum hours which are required, they have the potential to increase their earnings up till 5x. And that also is very, very visible in the customer feedback, because the more aware you are about what you're selling, you sell the right product to the customer. So that is how we measure on the partner side. As far as employee side is concerned, Dhruv, there is a stark correlation between the attrition rates that we experienced at a frontline level when there was less emphasis on training, and now when there's a larger emphasis on training. More than 85% of the senior roles in our organization are filled internally. That is because we are focusing on developing the talent, and that can happen through on-the-job learning, which anyway happens through rotations and everything else, and also passive learning opportunities, which could be on the LMS, which could be through the courses which are available today, and also in-person training. So these two are very strong metrics. And then of course a secondary metric also is we measure how happy people are with the learning opportunities that are being provided in the company, and whether they feel that we are preparing them for larger roles. So those are some standard questions which are a part of our engagement survey which we run, and FGDs that we do with the employees. We keep a tab on what kind of feedback is coming in. So that's how we do it.
Great. And would you also say that today the learning process that you're following is fairly democratized for the employee to choose where he would want to skill? Is that input coming from them, or as the learning custodian, are you saying that this is where you need to spend your maximum time on learning?
A bit of both, Dhruv. As I said, my mantra is always a win-win proposition. Now, when it comes to regulatory courses, it's not just us, but I think a lot of employees feel that that may not result in any skill accretion, but that's extremely necessary. Be it your ABAC, be it your code of conduct, these are some regulatory policies that you need to do. So there is a push mechanism, and there is a drive that people would need to do it. On the other side of it, we do a very in-depth training need identification, where we speak to the employees, where we speak to the managers, and we have also divided them into cohorts which are similar in nature. For example, we just are in the process of concluding a bespoke program that we did only for middle-level women leaders. So dividing it into cohorts, understanding, because we saw that there are women who are struggling to kind of break that proverbial glass ceiling and move to the next level. So why not do a program? And the moment we did that, the uptake for the program was large, because they wanted it and we gave it. So mix of both, because it cannot be a very democratized process, because the company and the senior management sometimes can see much ahead as to what are the skills that the organization requires and what an employee would realize. So a mixture of far-sightedness and short-sightedness, and getting in the needs and demand together, and you whip up certain interventions for different cohorts. So that's how we do it.
Great. And looking at the past year, what has been the top learning challenge that you've had to solve for your organization, and how have you done it?
I think the challenges that come with a geographically distributed workforce, that's what I said in the beginning as well, that it is very, very challenging. Now, if you look at a typical frontline in the insurance industry, about 50% of them are freshers through. These are kids whom you get from tier 3, tier 4 campuses, which you and I would not have heard of before. Of course, we started recruiting from it. So bringing these kids to metros, and then giving them the confidence and giving them the knowledge, I think that's been the biggest challenge, because sales is difficult, and if it's insurance, it makes it more difficult. If you're a fresher, it is even more difficult, because you're coping up with the challenges of doing a job for the first time, doing it in a tough sector, and a tough product. So how to kind of whip up that entire program which will make them ready? So we did a 45-day phase start program. We said that we will not let these kids hit the floor till the time a combination of in-person, online, on the job, mentoring, shadowing program in 45 days is done, and then they were hitting the floor. And even after that, there was a lot of hand holding that happened. So that's I think the biggest problem that we solved for in the past 6-7 months.
And you know, and you mentioned freshers. It's a lot of Gen Zs coming into the organization. How are you dealing with you know, people managers, possibly a different generation versus you know, Gen Zs coming in? What has been your learning there?
That's a great question. I think there's always a friction. Why? Because the values and what different generations have expected from the job are quite different. So sensitizing and developing leaders at all rungs and facilitating an environment where people can share what's going on in their mind and where is it that they would need help and where is it that they can move independently has worked really for us. So fostering candor, fostering transparency, and inclusion is one of our core values. So you and I may be very, very different, and we may come from very different backgrounds with different motivators, but that doesn't make you right and me wrong, or that doesn't make me right and you wrong. So you and I will have to accept that we are a part of the same company and we may think differently, but we need to contribute to a common outcome. And that's where the leadership programs, the behavioral programs, the sensitization workshops, the in-depth programs that we do with some of the providers, and a lot are internally delivered by leaders. So our leaders do such programs where we sensitize people. So I think so far it's been okay, but it's going to be a tough problem to solve completely. And by the time we solve it, we'll realize that there's another generation which has gotten added into the workforce, and they come with their own demands and challenges.
No, but I think, if I look at it, and especially the work that you're doing, it's a combination of distributed workforce, also a lot of freshers, also high attrition, and also recruiting from hinterland, right? So it's a multifaceted problem. And I'm sure there's a lot of learning that you've sort of been able to derive, especially in this. If there was one piece of advice that you wanted to give to our learning leaders, after looking at a complex narrative like this, what would that be?
I think one size doesn't fit all is the simple thing which I will say. All of us are very, very tempted to go down the beaten road, but in learning and development, it's extremely important to understand the maturity of the organization, the uptake of the individuals, and what will work and what will not. So in a distributed workforce where it's about frontline sales, then you possibly cannot have 2 to 3 days of workshops. You will have to look at micro learning. You will have to see how you can digitize that content and make it available to these people so that they can do this at their own will. Whereas when you talk about a corporate crowd, people who are in tech or in other enabling functions, they may require a completely different thing. They may require an upGrad or someone else to do those specialized case studies, those courses which will add on to their functional acumen, and then you bolster it along with leadership interventions that you may want to do. So being able to offer customized learning opportunities which benefit the individual as well as the organization will hold the success. I think it's the success mantra, so to say, for not just L&D but any initiative that we take as the HR fraternity.
Great, and thank you, Divya. Thank you so much for your time. This, I'm sure, is helpful, and the learning leaders looking at this, will learn about the complex environment that you're operating in.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Dhruv. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome.